Morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Gunjan. Good morning, Vipin, Mohit, Ayushi, Varda. Good morning. Astha, Ruchita, Srinidhi, Muhammad, Itheshu. Good morning. Gunshita, Anand, Shalini, Bibhush, Priya, Prachi. Good morning, everyone. Ash Babu, Ishan, Vishnu, Shivangi. Good morning, everyone. कैसे हैं सब लोग? So, ready for the revision? So let's start the first day of performance. Performance of contract means carrying out obligation to do what the parties had decided to do. There are two types of performance, section 37, actual performance, and the tender performance, section 38, which means offer to perform. Promisor offered to perform his obligation or duty under the contract at the proper time and place, but the promisee refuses to accept the performance. So offer to perform is equal to actual performance if other party stop to perform. Conditions of a valid performance. Conditions of a valid performance, it must be unconditional. It must be according to the terms and conditions which are decided at the time of contract. It should be proper time and place, means if the time and place is decided, it should be at that place. If not decided, as per the reasonable. And reasonable means depends upon the facts and the circumstances. Third point, there must be a reasonable opportunity to examine the goods, and the performance should be for whole obligation. Part performance could not be taken. To the promisee, performance can be done to the promisee or his duly authorized agent. However, a tender may be made to any one of the joint promisees. Means, in case of joint promisee, offer to perform can be done to any of the joint promisee. Tender must be of the exact amount and must be legal tender. Means normally in which currency the contract is entered, the performance should be in that currency only. By whom promisor himself can perform. If there is no requirement of personal skills, then agent can perform on behalf of promisor. In case of death of the promisor and no requirement of personal skills, then legal representative will perform. Third person, if the promisee accept the performance of promise from a third person, then he cannot demand the performance from the promisor again. Performance of the joint promises, I have told you beta. In case of joint promises, rights are always joint, liabilities are separate and joint. Okay? So all the joint promisers are liable jointly and severally. However, contract may provide otherwise. It means contract may provide something else. One has right to contribution from the others. If the performance is demanded by only one joint promiser, then he can demand the contribution from other. If one of the joint promiser is released, he is responsible to the other joint promiser or promiser. Time, place, and manner as decided otherwise during business hours at business place or the residence of the promisee. I have discussed performance of the reciprocal promise. Reciprocal means promise against promise. There are three types of promises. Mutual and dependent. One, if the promiser who must perform fails to perform it, then he cannot claim the performance of the second promise. Mutual and independent, not connected with each other. Each party must perform his promise without waiting for the performance of other party. Mutual and concurrent, the same time performance should be done for both the promises. Reciprocal promise, to do things legal and also other things illegal. then the illegal part is void, legal part is valid. Appropriation of payment means adjustment of payment against the debt. Remember the example, appropriation by debtor. If accepted by creditor, then a creditor must adjust, must apply the amount against the debt as per the debtor. Rule 2, if debtor does not provide, not intimate the creditor, then creditor may apply at his discretion to any lawful debt, including time bar, but not a dispute debt. When neither party appropriates, neither party makes any appropriation of the payment, then payment will be adjusted in the basis of on the basis of FIFO in the sequence of the invoices or debt. So the payment is to be applied in discharge of debt in order of the time, in sequence of the time, including time bar. If the debts are equal, it should be applied proportionately. So please prepare the sheet. So good morning, Deepak, Sarvasv, Rohini, Lavanya, good morning, Singh, Rajiv Kumar, good morning, Priyanshu, Sonali, Harshita, Bibu, Hema Shrija, Karan, Ashfiya, Anjana, Rahul, Madhu, good morning everyone, Mohit Gupta, Likhit, Rahul, Priya, Harnoor, Asha, Mamta, good morning, Mehakpreet, Priyanshu, Anshita, Nadia, Mohit, Manas, Rahul, Fajan, Mitra, good morning, Surya, Vaishnavi, Tanishka, Avdesh, Lakshita, Alpi Thangal, Harsh, Khushbu, Saloni, Dhwani, Chitrang, Kalyani, good morning, Surya, Nizala, good morning, Shriya Ragini, good morning, Bhaiya, good morning. Good morning, everyone. So this time for test. First question. Please no need to send the answer. This self-assessment test I am repeating again and again, but you are you. आप तो आप है, बार बार देखते रहते हैं आंसर. भैया जरूरत नहीं है. Performance of the contract means the performance of respective obligation under the contract by promisor only, promisee only, both the promisor and promisee, court of law. The answer is both the promisor and the promisee. Next question. A contract involving personal skill of the promisor can be performed by promisor alone, agent of the promisor, promisor's legal representative, all of these. Involving personal skills. आप में से एक बिटिया ने कहा है कि सर प्लीज नाम न लिया कीजिए, टाइम वेस्ट होता है, लेकिन कम से कम 100 बच्चों ने कहा सर मेरा नाम तो लिया ही नहीं आपने. The answer is in case of contract involves personal skills that can be performed by promisor alone. Next. Where two or more persons jointly enter into an agreement with one or more persons, the promise is known as joint promise, combined promise, reciprocal promise, none of these. मेरे बच्चों आंसर क्यों भेज रहे हो? नो नीड टू सेंड द आंसर. दिस इज सेल्फ असेसमेंट टेस्ट. बोलना तो कितना तो बोलता हूँ बच्चों. The answer is joint promise. Next, where each party is a promiser as well as the promisee. It is a case of every valid contract, reciprocal promise, general offer, contingent contract. The answer is reciprocal promises because both the parties make the promise. Next, where payment by debtor is made without any express indication of appropriation, to which of the following debts payment can be appropriated by creditor? Any legal debt, time bar debt, any debt, legal or illegal, both A and B. The answer is D, because any legal debt, including time bar. Next, the promises which are to be performed simultaneously are known as mutual and concurrent, conditional and dependent, mutual and independent, none of these. The answer is that is mutual and concurrent. Next question. A owes rupees 50,000 to B. Before clearing his liability, A dies, leaving behind an estate of worth rupees 40,000. In this case, A's legal representative are liable for 10,000, 40,000, 50,000, none of these. Basically, this point has been discussed by me in the last class, but not in your notes. But I have discussed. The answer is B, 40,000, because he has the estate of only 40,000. So liability is up to only 40,000. Next. Rohan and Sohan jointly promised to pay Mohan 30,000. Sohan paid the whole amount to Mohan. If Rohan is solvent means able to pay, then Sohan can recover 30,000 from Rohan, 15,000 from Rohan, 10,000 from Rohan, none of these. Someone is asking in this test, sir, joint promise or combined promise में क्या अंतर है? Actually, basically, we have to select the best option. And as per the law language, there is joint promise, no concept of combined promise. Okay? The answer is 15,000. Next, Rahul and Deepak are joint promisers. Promisee discharge Deepak. Then both of them discharge from liability. Promise comes to end. Deepak is not discharged from the liability towards Rahul. Rahul is discharged from liability. You have to select the best answer. The answer is C. Deepak is discharged from promisee, but will not be discharged from the joint promiser. That is Rahul. Last question. Raki is a dancer. She contract with Raghav to dance in a program, but before the due date of program, Raki dies. This contract is performed by Raki's legal heir, by Raki's relative, by Raghav himself, none of the above. The answer is none of the above, because it requires personal skills, so no one can perform other than the promiser. So this was the test. We come to the main slides. Distinction between succession and assignment. Sir, I am not able to download assignments and note. The app keeps stopping. What should I do? I think you should contact ICI. Okay, my problem will be solved. Seventh question. Okay, we will discuss at last. Okay, so let's start that session. The first topic is succession and assignment. What is succession and assignment? Succession. When the benefits of a contract are succeeded by, when the benefits of contract are succeeded by the process of law, then both burden and benefits attaching to the contract may sometime devolve on the legal heir. Please read carefully. Both burden, that is liability, and benefits attaching to the contracts may sometime devolve on the legal heir. Normally, succession is in case of death. So when the in case of death of any person, the legal heir will be automatically becomes the get the benefits of or the estate of the deceased person. So when he get the assets, he will also get the liability. But the liability of him is up to the estate. देखिए किसी की डेथ होती है तो उसका लीगल हेयर डेफिनेटली क्या बन जाता है, प्रॉपर्टी का मालिक बन जाता है, वारिस बन जाता है. असेट के साथ साथ लायबिलिटी भी उसे चुकानी होती है, और लायबिलिटी वो उतनी ही चुकाएगा जितनी उसे असेट मिली, उसके ऊपर चुकाने का उसको कोई राइट नहीं है. तो सक्सेशन इज नॉर्मली इन बाय प्रोसेस ऑफ लॉ, बाय लॉ, and where the both liabilities and assets are transferred. A son succeeds to estate of his father after his death. He will be liable to pay the debt and liabilities of his father owed during his lifetime. But if the debts, please listen, but if the debts owed by his father exceed the value of estate inherited by the son, then he would not be called upon to pay the excess. He would not be called upon to pay the excess. In other words, the liability of the son will be limited to the extent of property inherited by him, thus far and no further. क्या मतलब हुआ पूरे का? इस सक्सेशन के केस, सक्सेशन नॉर्मली क्या होता है, बाय लॉ होता है, नॉर्मली डेथ के बाद होता है. सक्सेशन में बेनिफिट्स और लायबिलिटीज दोनों ट्रांसफर होते हैं, पर लायबिलिटी उतनी ही होंगी जितनी उसको बेनिफिट्स मिले हैं. अगर लायबिलिटी ज्यादा है तो बेनिफिट्स तक बेनिफिट्स ज्यादा है तो जितना बेनिफिट है वहीं तक उसको चुकाना है जिसने वो सक्सीड किया है. राइट. एक पिता को अपने, फॉर एग्जांपल, एक पिता ने की डेथ के बाद बेटे को उनकी 1 करोड़ रुपए की एसेट मिली और बाद में मालूम पड़ा कि 1 करोड़ 20 लाख रुपए की उनकी लायबिलिटी है, तो बेटे को लायबिलिटी चुकानी है लेकिन केवल 1 करोड़. Let's say कि when after the death of father, son get a worth of rupees, estate of rupees 1 crore, and he also knew that the liability of his father is 1 crore 20 lakh. So son is liable to pay off the liabilities, but up to the amount of estate that is 1 crore. Clear? Assignment. What is assignment? In case of assignment, only benefits are assigned, only benefits are transferred. Why this is so? This is because when liability is assigned, a third party gets involved. Thus, a debtor cannot relieve himself of his liability to the creditor by assigning to someone else his obligation to repay the debt. Means, let's say A has purchased goods from B. A has purchased goods from B of rupees 10,000, right? A becomes the debtor because A has to make the payment and B is the creditor. Now A wants to assign his liability to Mr. C. Law says it is not possible because it involves B also, because payment has to be received by B. If B's agree that payment of A should be made by C, then it is okay, that liability can be assigned, otherwise not. Only A can say, sir, I will not pay on my place, C will pay. That is not enough. असाइनमेंट में ट्रांसफर में केवल लायबिलिटी ट्रांसफर नहीं हो सकती, केवल बेनिफिट ट्रांसफर। ऐसा इसलिए कि लायबिलिटी ट्रांसफर करके थर्ड पार्टी भी इन्वॉल्व हो जाती है। फॉर एग्जांपल ए ने कुछ माल 10,000 रुपए का माल खरीदा बी से, तो ए बन गए डेटर, बी बन गए क्रेडिटर, क्योंकि ए को पेमेंट करना है, राइट। अब ए ने कहा भाई साहब मैं पेमेंट नहीं करूंगा, सी पेमेंट करेगा। इन दिस केस सी इज ऑल्सो, बी इज इन्वॉल्व। तो यहां पर अगर बी एग्री है तभी ये लायबिलिटी असाइन हो सकती है, केवल ए अपने आप से असाइन नहीं कर सकता। क्लियर? ऑन द अदर हैंड, इफ क्रेडिटर असाइन द बेनिफिट ऑफ प्रॉमिस, he thereby entitles the assignee to release the debt from the debtor, but where the benefit is coupled with the liability or where personal consideration has entered into making of the contract, then benefits cannot be assigned. Means इस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, इन द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट we have taken the example of A and B and C, तो B can say देखिए okay, in place of me the payment will be received by C, that is okay. But suppose with this right any liability is involved, let's say goods is not transferred, there is a contract between A and B that A will purchase the goods from B, but neither the goods is transferred nor the payment is. In this case, C can say, okay, the payment should be received by, B can say the payment should be received by C. But what is the liability of B? The liability of B is transfer of the goods. So in this case, the B can transfer his liability only if A is there, right? In case of personal skill attached, no assignment possible. देखिए अगर एग्जाम्पल की बात करें, हम ए और बी वाला एग्जाम्पल हमने लिया था बच्चों, इस एग्जाम्पल में अगर मान लीजिए बी कहता है मतलब पेमेंट मेरी जगह पर सी को दे देना, ओके, क्योंकि राइट्स कैन बी ट्रांसफर्ड, बट इसके साथ कुछ लायबिलिटी भी जुड़ी हुई है, जैसे अभी गुड्स का ट्रांसफर हुआ ही नहीं है, कहता गुड्स ही मैं सी को दे दूंगा, नो, ये ए को की परमिशन से ही सी बी अपने गुड्स को ट्रांसफर सी को कर सकता है। क्लियर इतनी बात? So in case of succession, both benefits and liabilities are transferred, but in case of assignment, only benefits are transferred, but liability can also be transferred with the permission of the other party. Impossibility of performance. Impossibility of performance. The topic is given in the book, but it's very easy topic. Impossibility of performance. If contract is impossible to perform, 100% void. Because impossible cannot be performed. What are the rules in Indian Contract Act regarding the impossibility of performance? Let's discuss. Impossibility existing at the time of contract. See, when the parties are entering into the contract, the performance is impossible, then contract is 100%. When the parties agree upon the doing of something which is obviously impossible in itself, the agreement would be void. The fact of impossibility may be or may not be known to the parties. May be known or may not be known. See, if known to the parties, it would be observed that an agreement constituted quite unknown to the parties may be impossible being performed and hence void. Listen, if in content performance of content is impossible, then what difference whether known to parties or not known to parties? Contract is void. See the example number 24. B promised to pay a sum of rupees 5,000 if he is able to swim across the Indian Ocean from the Bombay to Aden within a week. In this case, there is no real agreement since both the parties are quite certain in their mind that the act is impossible of achievement. Therefore, the agreement being impossible in itself is void. अगर performance करना impossible है due to any reason at the time of making the contract, so there will be two situations, whether known to parties or not known to parties. In the both situation, contract is void. Let's see the example number 24 कि B ने कहा कि मैं तुम्हें 5,000 रुपए दूंगा अगर आप इंडियन ओशन से बॉम्बे इंडियन ओशन को बॉम्बे से अडेन तक एक हफ्ते में क्रॉस कर देंगे. दोनों पार्टियों को पता है इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या है? void. If unknown to the parties, when both the promisor and promisee are ignorant of the impossibility of performance, the contract is perfectly void. So even not known, the contract is perfectly void. A contracted B to sell his brown horse for rupees 50,000, but unaware that the horse was dead at a day before the agreement. So because the horse is dead, the contract is void. ए और बी ने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया कि वो अपना घोड़ा 50,000 में बेचेंगे, लेकिन जिस दिन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ उससे एक दिन पहले ही घोड़ा मर चुका था, दोनों को पता नहीं. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या हो जाएगा? void because it is not possible to perform the contract. But important, third point is important for you. एक सेकंड बच्चों, मैं नोट कर लो तुम्हारी क्वेरी कहां से लेनी है मुझे. Where at the time of entering into a contract, the promisor alone knows about the impossibility of performance, or even he does not know, though he should have known it with reasonable diligence, the promisee is entitled to claim the compensation for any loss he suffered on account of non-performance. Let's take an example. In the example number 25, A contracted B to sell his brown horse for rupees 50,000, and A knows that horse was dead, but B was unaware. It means known to one person only. In this case, promisee, that is B, can claim the compensation from A. Law says if known to promisor only, then promisee can claim the compensation for non-performance from the promisor. If 2 points are given in this point, if known to the promisor, or if the promisor can find out the fact by using reasonable diligence, then promisee can claim the compensation. अगर impossibility एक आदमी को पता है, बच्चों, अगर impossibility एक आदमी को पता है, promisor को, promisee को नहीं पता, या promisor अपना छोटा हल्का नॉर्मल दिमाग लगा के इसको पता लगा सकता था, उस केस में परफॉर्मेंस क्या माना जाएगा बेटे? इस केस में प्रॉमिसर से कॉम्पनसेशन क्लेम कर. क्लियर? अगर एक की गलती है. Supervening impossibility. Supervening means impossibility become after the entering of the contract. Even that case, the contract will be void. When performance of the promise become impossible or illegal by occurrence of an unexpected event or a change of circumstances beyond the contemplation of parties, the contract become void. For example, change in law. At the time of making the contract was valid as per the law, but after that, before performance, the law has changed and the performance become impossible, then contract will also become. जिस समय कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ उस समय वैलिड था, लेकिन बाद में कुछ लॉ में चेंज हुआ और परफॉर्मेंस इम्पॉसिबल हो गया या परफॉर्म करना इलीगल हो जाएगा, उस केस में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या होगा? वॉइड. See the example number 26. A and B contracted to marry each other. Before the time fixed for the marriage, A became married. Normally, people became married after the marriage, but in this case, he became married before the marriage. Now, in this case, the contract become void due to subsequent impossibility, and thus it is discharged. The liability will be discharged. A और B के बीच में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ शादी करने का, लेकिन शादी से पहले ही A पागल हो गया, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या हो जाएगा? Void. Contract which need to not to be performed, this will be discussed at last. Now, topic is discharge of the contract, but before this topic, I'm just taking your queries. Sir, question in exam will come from study material. How you can say the question will come, but pattern will be same. Matter will be from the study material. Sir, please explain in Telugu language for time also. I don't know better Telugu language. What is disputed debt? Disputed debt means where the parties are not sure. Both the parties are not sure. Types of performance we have discussed with the actual performance when actually performed, then actual performance when offered to perform, it is called tender performance. What if the son is minor? For which reference you are talking? I don't understand. Son is minor in case of legal heir. Okay. So in that case, even the son is liable up to the estate. Sir, what if the liability of father is only 50 lakhs and the estate of rupees 1 crore? Then son has to pay. He has to set off the liability of 50 lakhs. Sir, if the father had loan of rupees 1 lakh and the estate is worth 50,000, then what amount will the son pay? Only 50,000. Sir, Chitrang is asking, sir, if the father has more than one son or daughter, then will the liabilities also be divided or only the property? Okay, listen. In which ratio the property is divided, the liability will also be divided in that ratio. In succession, if 1 crore of the amount and liabilities up to 80 lakhs, then what will happen of rupees 20 lakhs? The legal heir will get the benefit of 20 lakhs. What is the meaning of supervening? Supervening means subsequent. Sir, in example number 25, if the horse की डेथ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के बाद हो गई है, तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वॉइड होगा, वैलिड होगा. देखिए, even after the contract, that is case of supervening impossibility, subsequent impossibility, the contract will be void. Sir, please make law Telegram channel, beta. Sorry, this is not as per the ICAI guidelines. सुपरवेनिंग का मतलब बता दिया मैंने, मीन्स सब्सिक्वेंट, सब मीन्स कि at the time of making the contract it is perfectly possible, but after the contract, due to some reason, due to some circumstances, the performance becomes impossible. I am taking full course with reference to study material, so don't worry. Okay. Let's start the discharge of contract. Discharge of contract means termination of the liability, termination of the contractual relationship, end of the liabilities to the contract. It means after the discharge of contract, no one is liable to perform on the contract. In other discharge of contract means termination of contractual relationship between the parties. In other words, a contract is said to be discharged when either of the parties in no more liable to contract. ठीक है? Listen, this chart is completely complete says the topic of discharge of contract. You can revise with this slide only. You can revise the full topic of discharge of contract with this slide only. This is the slide, but you have to just add some point according to your requirement. But this is a sufficient slide for the revision of discharge of contract, to complete understanding of the topic. There are 6 ways for discharge of contract. First is performance. Second is mutual consent. Third is impossibility of performance. Fourth is operation of law. Fifth is breach of contract, and sixth is lapse of time. So first we will discuss these topics in detail. Then we will again come on this slide. By performance, discharge of contract by performance. We have discussed that 2 types of performance: actual and tender performance. In both the cases, the liability of the person who offers to perform, who actually performs, is end of the liability of the person. हमने पढ़ा था बच्चों, दो तरह के परफॉर्मेंस होते हैं, एक्चुअल और टेंडर, राइट? एक्चुअल और टेंडर, ठीक है? एक्चुअल मीन्स when both the parties actually performed, the liability ends. Tender, one party offered to perform, but other party is not agreed to receive the performance. So on the first party, the performance is complete. He will be discharged from the liability. दो तरह के परफॉर्म, एक्चुअल और टेंडर. एक ने एक्चुअल का होता है जब दोनों पार्टी अपना काम पूरा कर दे. टेंडर का होता है बच्चों जब एक पार्टी ऑफर कर रही है, सामने वाला उसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहा है, तो क्या माना जाएगा? वो टेंडर परफॉर्मेंस. तो जो ऑफर कर रहा है उसके ऊपर कोई लायबिलिटी नहीं आएगी भाई, ठीक है? सेकंड है म्यूचुअल कंसेंट और एग्रीमेंट. आपसी सहमति से आपस में तय किया उन्होंने कि भैया ठीक है, ये पोजीशंस है, इनके बेसिस पर हम कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को डिस्चार्ज कर रहे हैं. फर्स्ट इज नोवेशन. Novation means, please underline and write. Novation means new contract. Novation means new contract. New contract. Important things, please mark कीजिए. I have given also in bold letters. Substitutions, change, replacement of a new contract for original one. The new contract may be substituted or replaced either between the same parties or between the different parties. But the novation should take place before the expiry of the time of the performance of the original contract, before the expiry of due date time. Right? See the example. X borrowed 1,000 from Y. X borrowed rupees 1,000 from Y, and now X, Y, Z agreed that debt will be discharged by Z. Now there is new contract between Z and Y is performed, and old contract between X and Y comes to end. नोवेशन का मतलब होता है बच्चों नया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। जब सेम पार्टी में या डिफरेंट पार्टीज में कोई नया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो जाए किसके प्लेस पर, किसी जगह पर, पुराने की जगह पर, तो पुराना परफॉर्म नहीं करना है, वो खत्म हो गया, नए को परफॉर्म करना। जैसे कि एक्स ने 1,000 रुपए लिए वाई से। अब एक्स वाई जेड तीनों बैठे और डिसाइड किया, क्या डिसाइड किया कि भैया जो डेब्ट का पेमेंट है ना वो जेड करेगा, तीनों एग्री। नाउ दिस इज अ न्यू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट and Z will repay the amount in place of X. Okay. Now Y cannot claim the payment from X. X ने 1,000 रुपए बोरो किए Y से, और फिर एक जगह पर X, Y, Z बैठे और इन्होंने डिसाइड किया, क्या डिसाइड किया कि Z कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को डिस्चार्ज करेगा। तो नया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया। अब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किसी बीच में हो गया नया, Y और Z के बीच में, तो X का पार्ट खत्म, यानी जो ओरिजिनल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट था जिसमें एक्स और वाई पार्टी थे वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट खत्म हो गया। अब वाई किससे पेमेंट क्लेम करेगा, जेड से। तो नोवेशन मींस न्यू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, मे बी बिटवीन सेम पार्टीज और मे बी बिटवीन डिफरेंट पार्टीज। बाय म्यूचुअल कंसेंट सेकंड पार्ट इज रेसेशन, अंडरलाइन कीजिए कैंसिलेशन। रेसेशन मतलब होता है कैंसिलेशन। सपोज आई एंटर्ड इन अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विद मिस्टर ए to sell my car for rupees 2 lakh. On due date, A says, sir, I am not interested to purchase my car. I said, okay, done. Contract was cancelled. No person need to perform. So cancellation of some, all or some of the terms of the contract by mutual agreement of parties, mutual understanding of parties. A contracted with B for supply of 100 kg of rice. Later on, they agree that no rice need be supplied. The contract is resigned by mutual agreement. Rescission का मतलब होता है बच्चों कैंसिलेशन। ठीक है, मैंने एग्जांपल दिया कि मेरा ए से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ कि भैया मैं अपनी कार बेचूंगा ए को 2 लाख रुपए में। जो ड्यू डेट थी उस दिन ए ने कहा सर मुझे कार नहीं खरीदनी आपकी, मैं इंटरेस्टेड नहीं। ओके डन, उसने भी कैंसिल कर दिया, मैंने भी कैंसिल कर दिया, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या हो गया, खत्म हो गया। अब ना मुझे परफॉर्म करना है ना उसे परफॉर्म करना है। इन द सेम वे एग्जांपल नंबर 28, ए और बी के बीच में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ कि ए बी को 100 किलो चावल सप्लाई करेगा। बाद में कहा भाई साहब हम नहीं कर रहे, कैंसिल करो। कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या हो गया, डिजाइन हो गया बाय म्यूचुअल एग्रीमेंट। ऑल्टरेशन, ऑल्टरेशन मतलब होता है चेंज इन सर्टेन टर्म्स ऑफ द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट बट बिटवीन सेम पार्टीज। इन नोवेशन the parties may be different, but in alteration parties should be same, but change of some terms, not the full contract, some terms are changed. For example, there is a contract between me and Mr. A to sell my car for rupees 2 lakh on Sunday, right? Then A says, sir, not on Sunday, I am not in Agra or not in place, so I can take the car on Monday. Terms are changed, but original contract is there. So that is called alteration. A agrees to supply cotton of grade 1 to B before delivery of A and B agree that in place of grade 1 the cotton of grade 2 will be supplied. There is an alteration in the contract. Alteration का मतलब होता है बच्चों कुछ टर्म्स में चेंज होना, पूरा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चेंज नहीं होगा, कुछ टर्म्स चेंज होना। लेकिन इंपॉर्टेंट बात है कि पार्टी सेम होनी चाहिए, पार्टी चेंज हो गई तो वो नोवेशन कहलाएगा। पार्टीज वही रहनी चाहिए। जैसे एग्जांपल मैंने कांटेक्ट किया मिस्टर ए से कि मेरी कार वो 1-2 लाख में खरीदेंगे, संडे को डिलीवरी होगी। ए ने कहा सर मैं संडे को नहीं ले पाऊंगा, मंडे को ले पाऊंगा, संडे को मैं हूं नहीं। तो ये क्या कहलाया, चेंज इन द टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन। पार्टीज आर सेम, इज कॉल्ड ऑल्टरेशन। इन द सेम वे इन एग्जांपल नंबर 29, ए एग्रीज टू सप्लाई कॉटन ऑफ ग्रेड 1। ए और बी के बीच में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ कि ए बी को ग्रेड 1 का कॉटन सप्लाई करेगा, लेकिन बिफोर परफॉर्मेंस दोनों ने एग्री किया था 1 का नहीं ग्रेड 2 का देंगे। तो क्या कहलाया, चेंज इन द टर्म्स ऑफ द पार्टीज आर सेम। सो नोवेशन, रेसेशन एंड ऑल्टरेशन। नेक्स्ट इज रेमिशन. लिख लीजिए, प्लीज नोट डाउन. रेमिशन मीन डिस्काउंट इन परफॉर्मेंस. Discount in performance. Suppose see, acceptance of a lesser amount than what he was contracted for, or a lesser fulfillment of the promise made. A has borrowed rupees 1000 from B at an interest of 100. B agrees not to demand the amount of interest from A. This is the remission. What is the meaning? Remission का मतलब होता है बच्चों डिस्काउंट देना इन परफॉर्मेंस. राइट, परफॉर्मेंस में डिस्काउंट देना क्या कहलाता है? रेमिशन कहलाता है. सपोज ए ने 1000 रुपए लिए बी से, इसमें 100 रुपए का ब्याज भी देना था. जब पेमेंट की बारी है, बी ने कहा भैया ऐसा कर, ब्याज छोड़ दे, 1000 रुपए दे दे. तो क्या कहलाया? दिस इज कॉल्ड रेमिशन, डिस्काउंट. नेक्स्ट इज वेवर. वेवर मींस 100% डिस्काउंट. वेवर मींस 100% डिस्काउंट. So waiver means relinquishment or abandonment of a right where a party waives his right under the contract, the other party it release of his obligation. Suppose in the above example, if B agrees not to demand the whole amount of loan, this is called waiver. This is called waiver. एग्जाम्पल नंबर 30 में ही ए ने कहा बी से कि भैया मैं तो 100 रुपए ब्याज के छोड़ दे रहा हूँ तुम्हारे को, केवल तुम 1000 रुपए देने. कहलाया रेमिशन. लेकिन ए ने कहा भैया कुछ मत दे, ना ब्याज दे ना प्रिंसिपल दे, कुछ मत दे. दैट इज कॉल्ड वेवर. तो क्लियर? नोवेशन न्यू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, रेसेशन कैंसिलेशन, ऑल्टरेशन चेंज इन द सम टर्म्स, रेमिशन डिस्काउंट, वेवर मींस 100%. merger, when inferior right merge in the superior right. See, suppose Mr. A has the tenant in the house of Mr. B, and there is an agreement between A and B that A will pay the rent to Mr. B up to 1 year. But after 3 months, A has purchased that house. So whether he will be liable to pay the rent? Answer is no, because firstly he was the tenant, now he becomes the owner. So inferior right merged with the superior right. So the contract of rent was discharged. Now A need not to pay that rent to the B. जब inferior right superior right में merge हो जाए, inferior right superior right में merge हो जाए, तो हम क्या बोलते हैं बच्चों? merger. जैसे सपोज ए बी के घर में किराएदार था, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ कि ए बी को रेंट पे करेगा 1 साल तक, लेकिन 3 महीने बाद ही ए ने बी का मकान खरीद लिया. क्या उसके बाद भी ए को रेंट पे करना है? द आंसर इज नो, क्योंकि सुपीरियर क्या हुआ? सुपीरियर इंफीरियर राइट सुपीरियर राइट में मर्ज. क्लियर इतनी बात बच्चों? नेक्स्ट, by impossibility, discharge of contract by impossibility. But I am taking some of your queries. Sir, if father has nominee, so liabilities will be paid by nominee or kids? The liability of the deceased person are only paid by the person who has get the estate, and the liability is only up to the amount of estate. जिसकी डेथ हो जाती है उसकी प्रॉपर्टी जिसे मिलेंगी, चाहे वो नॉमिनी हो चाहे वो किड्स हो, उन्हीं को उसकी लायबिलिटी पे करनी है, और उतने अमाउंट तक करनी है जितने की मरने वाले की संपत्ति थी. ठीक है? सर अगर डेथ हो रही है तो सक्सेशन लगता है, और अगर डेथ नहीं है तो असाइनमेंट होता है. डेथ के केस में सक्सेशन बाय लॉ होता है, असाइनमेंट आपकी अपनी मर्जी से है, आप अपने असाइनमेंट कर सकते हैं, ट्रांसफर कर सकते हैं अपने राइट्स. सर व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ वेवर? वेवर ऑफ डिस्काउंट मींस 100% डिस्काउंट. not the person giving the waiver means he is not interested to receive the performance. कहता okay भैया मुझे नहीं चाहिए performance, रखो मेरा काम हो गया. Attempted performance, tender performance are same. सर अल्ट्रेशन में प्राइस भी चेंज हो सकता है, यस हो सकता है, बट पार्टी शुड बी सेम. सर innovation, if there is contract between same parties, why there is one new contract, sir? Actually, innovation takes place only when the maximum terms are changed. But some terms are changed, called alteration. Alteration in amount is called remission. No. If alteration is for increased amount, then there is no remission. Let's say there is a contract between A and B to supply the bags of cement at rupees 250. But after some time, the price hikes because of some taxes. So there is increase in the price. There is no remission. There is only alteration in the rate of goods. Sir, 100% clear, crystal clear all these. Thank you. What is the meaning of merger? Merger means merge होना. छोटा राइट बड़े राइट में मर्ज हो गया. पहले वो टेनेंट था, बाद में उसने घर खरीद लिया तो मालिक बन गया. उसका रेंट थोड़ी पे करना है. Sir, if the dead person do not have any asset, who is liable to pay? No one will be liable. If dead person has no asset, no one will be liable to pay. Sir, if the son is minor, then will he pay any amount towards his father liability? I told you, beta. In case of death and son is minor, death of father and son is minor, so son is liable to pay only the amount of the property which he received from his father. Sir, this lesson carry how many marks? Can't say, beta. ये तो बड़ा मुश्किल है. This is very difficult to say. Out of this chapter, what how much marks will be asked? Sir, if contract is written, then it can also be rescission. Definitely, beta. Because we are talking about contract, and contract may be oral and written. So both contracts are covered here. One query is, sir, if 100% discount is given, then there will be no consideration between 2 and 10. Listen, the discount clause is started at the time of performance, not at the time of contract. एक कह रही है बिटिया, एक बच्ची कह रही है कि सर अगर 100% डिस्काउंट होगा तो कंसिडरेशन नहीं हुआ, और जब कंसिडरेशन नहीं होगा तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं होगा. नहीं, डिस्काउंट की बात जब नहीं हुई जब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ. डिस्काउंट की बात जब हुई जब परफॉर्मेंस हो रहा था. तो जब कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ उस समय कंसिडरेशन था. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट परफेक्टली वैलिड. थैंक यू सर, क्लियर ऑल माय क्वेरीज. ओके ओके, चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. इम्पॉसिबिलिटी. Impossibility in a contract may either be inherent in the transaction. Inherent means at the time of making the contract, or it may be introduced later, that is supervening impossibility, by the change of circumstances material to the contract. Right? Inherent means at the time of making the contract, we have discussed, known to the parties, A agrees with B to discover the treasure by magic, the contract is discharged, nobody have to perform. Subsequent impossibility, a contract is deemed to have become impossible of performance and thus void under the following circumstances. Destruction of subject matter, we have discussed better. A music hall was agreed to be let out on certain dates, but before dates it was destroyed by fire. Had the owner was absolved from liability to let the building as at the time of contract, it is possible to perform, but subsequently the hall was destroyed due to fire. The contract is discharged by both the parties. Nobody has to perform. By death or disablement of the parties. Where the performance must be executed personally, it means the contract which requires personal skills. In that case, by death or disablement of parties, the promise will be discharged, contract will be discharged, party need not to perform. Subsequent illegality. Contract is perfectly possible, but after some time it is not possible due to some change in law. The performance become illegal, then contract is discharged. Declaration of war subsequent to the making of contract. तो हमने क्या पढ़ा, जिस समय कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ उस समय, फॉर एग्जांपल ए पॉइंट की बात कर रहे हैं, एग्जाम्पल 34 की बात कर रहे हैं, जिस समय कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ उस समय तो क्या था, परफेक्टली वैलिड था, सब परफॉर्म हो सकता था, लेकिन उसके बाद हॉल में आग लग गई, परफॉर्म करना पॉसिबल नहीं है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या होगा, डिस्चार्ज हो जाएगा, एंड हो जाएगा. जिस समय कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होने के बाद जिस पार्टी को परफॉर्म करना था उसकी डेथ हो जाती है, जहां पर्सनल स्किल चाहिए, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वॉइड हो जाएगा. बट वेयर देयर इज नो रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ पर्सनल स्किल, देन लीगल हेयर हैज टू परफॉर्म. वेयर in case of death of the promisor or promisee, there and no personal skill are required, in that case the performance should be done by the legal. Subsequent illegality, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जिस वक्त हुआ लीगल था, बाद में लॉ चेंज हुआ और परफॉर्म करना, लॉ चेंज हुआ और वो परफॉर्मेंस क्या हो गया, इलीगल. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या होगा, डिस्चार्ज हो जाएगा, एंड हो जाएगा. डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ वॉर, जिस समय कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ उस समय सही था, लेकिन बाद में वॉर डिक्लेयर हो गया, बाद में वॉर डिक्लेयर हो गया, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या हो जाएगा, परफॉर्म करना पॉसिबल नहीं होगा, इसलिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या हो जाएगा, वो डिस्चार्ज हो जाएगा, एंड हो जाएगा. बाय नॉन एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ स्टेट ऑफ थिंग्स. नॉन एग्जिस्टेंस ऑफ स्टेट ऑफ थिंग्स का मतलब होता है द इंपॉर्टेंट या एसेंशियल रिक्वायरमेंट्स फॉर द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आर नॉट इन एग्जिस्टेंस. जो चीज चाहिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट परफॉर्म करने के लिए वही नहीं होगी तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को परफॉर्म करना इम्पॉसिबल हो जाएगा. Where certain necessary things for performance ceases to exist, the contract become void on the ground of impossible. Example number X and Y contract to marry each other, and before the time fixed for marriage, X goes mad. The contract becomes void. The contract becomes clear. A और X और Y ने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया मैरिज के लिए, लेकिन क्या हुआ कि एक जना पागल हो गया तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट परफॉर्म नहीं किया जा सकता, इट इज नॉट पॉसिबल. सो बिकॉज देयर टुडे इज ओनली वन सुपर ओवर सेशन, so we have the break at this place for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes we will rejoin and complete the topic. Amit ji, students may have the break of 5 minutes. Amit ji, can you hear me? Technical से. So, Amit ji, can you hear me? Okay, students, so please take the break and we will join after 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Sir, in example number 34, a query from your side, if the owner has received rent in advance, then he needs to return the advance definitely. Because at the time of contract of purchase of property, the previous agreement, which is for payment of rent, is terminated. One important question, query from your side, sir, discharge and void same meaning? No. Void may be at the time of contract, but discharge means end of the liability. The void may be the reason for discharge of contract, because discharge may be from, by reason of performance, by reason of contract become void, right? So void become void may be the reason for discharge of contract, but they are not the same. Sir, if a contract between A and B, if B disagree to perform and a contract with C, then it is novation or alteration. No. If the contract is between A and B and B need not to perform, is not interested to perform, and C ready to perform. So there is a new contract between A and C, and the contract between A and B will be discharged. Sir, let's say, sir, father, after the father's death, total liability is 10,000, but son's account has rupees 20,000 balance, which was given by father before the death through his business for himself. Then son is liable to pay through the his account also. I think this person is want to ask, suppose if father has given 20,000 to his son as a gift, if father has decided to give the 20,000 to the his father has given 20,000 to a son as a gift or for his pocket money. So at this point, the property of the it becomes the property of the son. After the death, the son has received as legal heir from his father 10,000. In that case, the liability is up to 10,000. क्वेश्चन बड़ा अच्छा था कि सर मान लीजिए डेथ से पहले ही फादर ने अपने बेटे को 20,000 रुपए दिए थे, और उसके बाद जब फादर की डेथ हो गई तो 10,000 रुपए मिले उनकी प्रॉपर्टी से। 20,000 रुपए अभी अकाउंट में है, तो क्या उसकी लायबिलिटी 30,000 रुपए की होगी? द लॉ सेज नो, क्योंकि जिस वक्त पिता ने अपने बेटे को 20,000 रुपए दिए थे तो ये बेटे की प्रॉपर्टी हो गई, ना कि पिता की। और पिता की डेथ के बाद जो भी पिता की एसेट होगी वो एज ए लीगल हेयर बेटा रिसीव करेगा, और जो लायबिलिटी है पिता की वो भी चुकाएगा, लेकिन अप टू द एस्टेट। एस्टेट मींस व्हाट ही हैज रिसीव्ड फ्रॉम हिज फादर आफ्टर द डेथ एज ए लीगल। क्लियर? सो द इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट in this slide is exception to the impossibility, means these are the points where contract should be performed. The impossibility will not be considered as impossibility. ये वो पॉइंट है और एग्जाम के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है। ये वो पॉइंट है जहां पर इम्पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं कहलाए। In these situations, performance should be done. First point, difficulty of possibility does not amount to impossibility. Today is very hot. I could not teach. This is a difficulty, not the impossibility. आज बहुत गर्मी है, मैं पढ़ा नहीं पाऊंगा, ये difficulty है, impossibility नहीं है. This is not to be called impossible. This is only difficulty. In this situation, I have to teach. मैं ये नहीं कह सकता कि आज गर्मी में पढ़ा नहीं पाऊंगा, ये impossibility नहीं है, difficulty है no doubt, पर मुझे perform करना पड़ेगा. If I don't perform because of this reason, I have to compensate the other party. Commercial impossibility does not render a contract void. Please underline commercial impossibility. In very simple language, I am giving you the meaning of commercial impossibility means sale at discount. Sale at discount. Let's say I have entered within a contract with Mr. A to supply of wheat at rupees 30 per kg on 10th August, right? On 10th August, the rate of wheat was 35 rupees. It means if I sold the wheat to Mr. A, I have to bear the loss of rupees 5 kg, 5 rupees per kg. So this is commercial impossibility, but not the impossibility. I have to perform even in case of loss. मान लीजिए मेरा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ ए से कि मैं ए को 30 रुपए किलो के हिसाब से गेहूं बेचूंगा, 10 अगस्त को डिलीवरी होगी, जिस दिन मुझे परफॉर्म करना था उस दिन गेहूं के प्राइस 30 से बढ़ के 35 हो गए। और अगर मैं इसको 30 में बेचता हूं तो मुझे 5 रुपए का लॉस होगा। दिस इज द कमर्शियल इम्पॉसिबिलिटी, बट क्योंकि मैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर चुका हूं, मुझे ये परफॉर्म करना पड़ेगा, मुझे वो गेहूं 30 रुपए में ही बेचना पड़ेगा। अगर नहीं बेचता हूं तो जो लॉस होगा ए को, वो ए उसके लिए मुझे कॉम्पनसेट करना पड़ेगा ए को। तीसरा स्ट्राइक, लॉकआउट्स एंड सिविल डिस्टर्बेंस, दीज आर नॉट कंसीडर्ड एज इम्पॉसिबिलिटी इन द लॉ. Non-performance by third party does not absolve the promisor from his liability. Let's see the example. I have entered in a contract with Mr. A to supply of 100 kg of wheat, okay, on 10th August. But my supplier has not given me the supply of wheat, so I could not perform to A. I have entered a contract with Mr. A to supply of 100 kg of wheat on particular date, say, let's say 10th August. But my supplier has not supplied the goods, so I could not perform, I could not supply to Mr. A. Now what happened? Whether I can say, sir, my supplier could not perform, so I could not perform. No. I have to compensate Mr. A. If I could not supply the wheat to Mr. A, I have to compensate as per the law. मान लीजिए मेरा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ ए से कि मैं उसको 100 किलो गेहूं सप्लाई करूंगा, लेकिन मेरा जो सप्लायर था उसने मुझे सप्लाई नहीं करे गेहूं, इस वजह से मैं ए को गुड सप्लाई नहीं कर सकता। थर्ड पार्टी ने परफॉर्म नहीं किया, तो ये कोई इम्पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं मानी जाएगी। अगर मैंने ड्यू डेट पर ए को गेहूं सप्लाई नहीं किया, रीजन कोई भी था, पर मुझे ए को कॉम्पनसेट करना पड़ेगा अगर ए को कोई लॉस हुआ। तो प्लीज मार्क इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, एक्सेप्शन टू द इम्पॉसिबिलिटी, राइट। One is asking, sir, if supplier is dead, then I think there is no question for this, because law says non-performed by third person does not absolve the promisor from his liability. अगर थर्ड पर्सन परफॉर्म नहीं कर रहा है, इससे कोई मतलब नहीं है किस रीजन से नहीं कर रहा है, आपके ऊपर लायबिलिटी बनती है, आपको परफॉर्म करना पड़ेगा। By operation of law, please mark operation of law means compulsory discharge of contract. First is by death of promisor. If in the contract personal skill is linked or connected or required, in that case, due to death of promisor, the contract is discharged. Death of the promisor result in termination. Termination means end of the contract in cases involving personal skill or ability. By insolvency. Insolvent means the person who cannot solve his liability, who cannot pay off his liabilities. Where an order of discharge is passed by insolvency court, the insolvent stands discharge of liability of all the debts incurred prior to his adjudication. Means if a person sees that he could not pay the liabilities, he applied the court for declaration of insolvency. Declaration of insolvency. In that case, after the order of the court, the person is not liable to pay off any liability. एक आदमी को लगता है कि वो लायबिलिटी पे नहीं कर सकता, वो कोर्ट में गया, साहब मुझे इंसॉल्वेंट डिक्लेयर कर दो, मेरे पास पैसा। कोर्ट चेक करता है उसे, फिर देखता है, उसे कोर्ट ने जैसे डिक्लेयर किया कि भैया ये तो इंसॉल्वेंट है, इस पे कुछ नहीं है, उस दिन के बाद से उसकी सारी लायबिलिटी खत्म हुई, उसको कोई भी लायबिलिटी अपनी परफॉर्म नहीं करनी। By merger, we have discussed beta. By and the unauthorized alteration of the terms of written document. If the contract is written and one party makes some unauthorized alteration, suppose the amount is 50,000, he gives 10 additional, and its amount becomes 5 lakhs. The contract is discharged. अगर कोई रिटन डॉक्यूमेंट के बेसिस पे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ है और उसमें कोई पार्टी उसमें कोई छेड़छाड़ करती है अनऑथराइज, तो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्या हो जाएगा, वो डिस्चार्ज हो जाएगा, एंड हो जाएगा, अदर पार्टी को परफॉर्म नहीं करना है, उसके ऊपर कोई लायबिलिटी नहीं। बाय ब्रीच ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, ब्रीच मींस denied to perform. Breach means denied to perform. When one party denied to perform, it is called breach of contract. And this is of two types: actual breach of contract or anticipatory breach of contract. Actual breach of contract or anticipatory breach of contract. See, if party deny to perform on the due date, it is called actual breach. If party deny to perform before the due date, it is called anticipatory breach. Let's take an example. There is a contract between Mr. A and B. There is a contract between Mr. A and B that A will supply 1 kg of rice to B. There is a contract between A and B that A will supply 1 kg of rice to Mr. B for rupees 100. Right? On 10th August. If on 10th August, Mr. A says to Mr. B that I will not supply the rice, this is called actual breach of contract. But before 10th August, he informs Mr. B that he will not supply the rice on 10th August. This is called anticipatory breach of contract. ब्रीच ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मतलब होता है परफॉर्मेंस करने से मना करना, राइट? ब्रीच ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दो तरह की होती है, एक्चुअल ब्रीच और एंटीसिपेटरी। एंटीसिपेटरी मतलब होता है बिफोर द ड्यू डेट, एंटीसिपेटरी मतलब बिफोर द ड्यू डेट, राइट? ए और बी के बीच में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ कि ए बी को 1 किलो चावल जो 100 रुपए के हैं वो सप्लाई करेगा 10 अगस्त, ठीक है? 10 अगस्त को ए कहता है बी से, भैया मैं परफॉर्म नहीं कर रहा, मैं नहीं दे पाऊंगा चावल, ये क्या कहलाएगा? एक्चुअल ब्रीच। लेकिन वो 10 से पहले ही सपोज 5 तारीख को इन्फॉर्म कर दे कि भैया जो मेरा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ था ना आपसे 10 तारीख को चावल सप्लाई करना है, मैं दे नहीं पाऊंगा आपको, ये कहलाएगा एंटीसिपेटरी ब्रीच। क्लियर? आई थिंक इट इज क्लियर व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ एक्चुअल ब्रीच एंड एंटीसिपेटरी ब्रीच। एंटीसिपेटरी ब्रीच when a party repudiates it before the time fixed for performance. Example number 36. A contracts to marry B before the agreed date of marriage. He marries C. B is entitled to sue A for breach of promise. Which type of breach is? It is the anticipatory, because the breach is made before the due date. Consequences, this is important. What are the consequences of anticipatory breach? The promisee may either resign the contract or treat the contract as at end and once sue for the damages, or he may elect not to resign but to treat the contract operative and wait for the time of performance and then hold the party liable for the consequences for non-performance. What does it mean? It means in case of anticipatory breach. Suppose in the example we have discussed just now, A and B. A informs B on 5th August that he will not supply the rice on 10th August. Okay, this is the anticipatory breach. Now, what is the consequences of anticipatory breach by A? Now, B has two options. B has two options. One, either he can treat the contract end on 5th August and file the suit for damages, or he may wait up to the 10th and file the suit on 10th August. जैसे अभी हमने डिस्कस किया बच्चों, एक एग्जांपल ए और बी के बीच में, ए को परफॉर्म करना 10 तारीख को, लेकिन ए ने 5 तारीख को मना कर दी, तो बी के पास क्या ऑप्शन है? बी के पास दो ऑप्शन है कि वो 5 तारीख को ही, जिस दिन मना किया गया उसी दिन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट को एंड मान ले और सूट फाइल करते कॉम्पनसेशन। दूसरा ऑप्शन, वो वेट करे कब तक? 10 तारीख जो ड्यू डेट थी, और उस दिन के बाद वो सूट फाइल करे। क्लियर इतनी बात? 10 तारीख वेट करे और फिर उस दिन के बाद वो सूट फाइल। क्लियर? उसे हम क्या बोलते हैं? एंटीसिपेटरी ब्रीच के कॉन्सेप्ट। See the example. This is the important example, not for this topic, but also for the next chapter, next unit. Example number 37. X agrees to sell to Y a certain quantity of wheat at rupees 100 kg per quintal to be delivered on 3rd March. On the 2nd February, X gives notice expressing his unwillingness to sell wheat, and the price of the wheat on that date is 110 per quintal. If Y repudiates the contract forthwith, that is on 2nd February, he would be able to recover the damages at rupees 10 per quintal. 10 how calculated? 10 means 110 minus 100. If instead of the action forthwith, he keeps the contract alive till 3rd March and files the suit again 3rd March, but on 3rd March, the price is 125 per quintal, now Y can claim the damages on the price 125 minus 100, which was original price, that is 25 per quintal के हिसाब। क्या कहा मैंने अभी? X और Y के बीच में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुआ गेहूं को बेचने के लिए 100 रुपए पर क्विंटल के साथ, जो 3 मार्च को डिलीवर हुआ। लेकिन 2nd फरवरी को ही X ने इन्फॉर्म कर दिया Y को कि भैया वो सप्लाई नहीं कर पाएगा, और 2nd फरवरी को रेट था 110 रुपए। अगर Y 2nd फरवरी को ही इनिशिएट करता है, केस फाइल कर देता है किसके अगेंस्ट में? X के अगेंस्ट में, तो जो डिफरेंस अमाउंट है 110 और 100 के बीच का 10 रुपए, वो उसके लिए वो सूट फाइल कर सकता है डैमेज कॉम्पनसेशन क्लेम करने के लिए, क्योंकि पहले वो 100 मिल रहा था, अब उसे 110 में खरीदना पड़ेगा। लेकिन अगर मान लीजिए वो 2 फरवरी को सूट फाइल नहीं करता और 3 मार्च तक वेट करता है, और 3 मार्च को रेट क्या था? 125 रुपए, तो क्लेम कितना बनेगा? 100 माइनस 125 इक्वल टू 25। क्लियर यहां तक? But if on the other hand, during the intervening period between 2nd February and 3rd March, private sale of wheat is prohibited by government, the contract would become void and Y would not be able to recover any damages. What does it mean? Y has decided not to file the case on 2nd February and he decided to wait till 3rd March, right? But during this period, the law has changed and private sale of wheat is prohibited by the government. Now, what is the status on 3rd March? The contract could not be performed because of subsequent impossibility. Now Y cannot claim anything from Mr. 2 फरवरी को इन्फॉर्म कर दिया था एक्स ने वाई को कि भैया मैं परफॉर्म नहीं करूंगा, और वाई ने सोचा रुको यार वेट करते हैं 3rd मार्च तक, शायद इसका मन बदल जाए या शायद ये क्या करे, रेट बढ़ जाए गेहूं का। लेकिन हुआ क्या, इस बीच में 2 फरवरी और 3 मार्च के बीच में सरकार की पॉलिसी आई जिसमें कहा गया भैया गेहूं तो सरकार के द्वारा बिकेगा, प्राइवेट कोई नहीं बिकेगा। अब जब 3 मार्च में स्टेटस क्या बचा, सुपरवेनिंग इम्पॉसिबिलिटी आ गई, लॉ चेंज हो गया, अब बेचना पॉसिबल ही नहीं है। अब इस केस में वाई कॉम्पनसेशन क्लेम नहीं कर सकता। क्लियर? इट मींस व्हेन द सूट विल बी फाइल्ड, the status or actual loss will be calculated on that date. Breach means end of the life, end, deny करना, breach means deny करना. Next, actual breach, it may take place at the time when performance is due or during the performance. C, A agrees to deliver 100 bags of sugar to B on 1st February 2012. On the said day, he failed to supply 100 bags of sugar to B. This is the actual breach, and the breach has been committed by A at the time when the performance becomes due. Easy. By lapse of time. By lapse of time means time bar. Contract becomes time bar. Contract becomes time bar. C. A contract should be performed within a specified period as prescribed by the Limitation Act 1963. If it is not performed, and if not action is taken by the promisee when within the specified period of limitation, he is deprived of remedy or law. It means when the contract becomes time barred, the party will be discharged from the liability. If the creditor does not file a suit against the buyer for recovery of the price in 3 years, that become time barred and hence is recovery. लॉ कहता है 3 साल में आपको सूट फाइल करना था, क्लेम करना था, आपने नहीं किया, 3 साल तक बैठे रहे चुपचाप, उसके बाद लोन क्या हो जाएगा, टाइम बार्ड हो जाएगा, लायबिलिटी टाइम बार्ड हो जाएगी, उसके बाद आप क्लेम नहीं कर सकते, पार्टी क्या हो जाएगी, डिस्चार्ज हो जाएगी लायबिलिटी। क्लियर? Contract which need not be performed. So before taking this slide, I am taking your queries, बच्चों. Breach, I have discussed beta. Breach means deny to perform. Okay. Actual breach means at the time of due date, the party denied to perform. Sir, can you please clear discharge by operation of law? I have discussed beta. Operation law means compulsory. In these situations which are given in the list, in these situations, the contract need to be performed compulsory. Sir, if the case is opposite, Y refused to take the delivery of the wheat, then if Y denied to receive to take the delivery of the wheat, then if there is loss to X, X can claim the compensation from Y. Restoration benefit मतलब benefit वापस आपके पास आ गया. आगे बढ़ते हैं. If the parties mutually agree to substitute the original contract by a new one or resign or alteration. In this case, if there is novation, if there is rescission, or there is alteration, in that case, no need to perform. Original contract will be discharged. If the promisee dispense with or remits wholly or in part the performance of the promise made to or extend the time for such performance or accept any satisfaction for it, means dispense means dispensary, मतलब कुछ औषधि देना, to remit something. If the promise is compensated by any other way, then original promise need not to perform. अगर promise को हम किसी और से satisfy कर देते हैं, तो उस केस में जो original था उसे perform नहीं करना. If the person at whose option contract is voidable resigned it, we have discussed, but this third point is different from first point. Third is covered in first point, but third says that it is applicable only in case of contract is voided. If A has received the consent of B by coercion, the contract is voidable at the option of the B. Now B avoid the contract, resign the contract, so this contract needs not to be performed. If the promisee neglects or refuses to afford the promiser reasonable facilities for the performance of his promise, अगर promiser परफॉर्म करना चाहता है लेकिन promisee उसे फैसिलिटी नहीं दे रहा है, in that case promiser need not to perform. If it is illegal, the contract क्या है, illegal है, उस केस में भी contract परफॉर्म करने की जरूरत नहीं है. This is important again for examination point of view. Please note down. Sir, how the theory should be memorized? But first thing you have to go through the study model of the ICI. You can take the help of notes what I have given you, but you have to go through the study model completely. One point is from Mr. Himanshu Pathak that sir, in actual breach, part performance has done for 80 kg of sugar in place of 100 kg. What will happen? See, I think this will be covered in next class, but I am taking the idea. Suppose Mr. A has to deliver the 100 kg of sugar, but he supply only 80 and say sorry, I cannot supply the rest of 20 kg. Now B has three options. First, he accept 80 kg and wait and ask for supply of 20 kg. Second option, he can reject. He can accept 80 kg and reject the 20 kg. Cancel the contract for 20 kg. He can say that I will pay only for 80 kg. And third, he can reject 80 kg also. A ने B से कॉन्टेक्ट किया कि A B को 100 किलो शुगर सप्लाई करेगा, लेकिन A ने 80 किलो सप्लाई की. B के पास तीन ऑप्शन है. पहला ऑप्शन, B A से कहता है भैया ऐसा है 80 किलो माल आ गया, 20 किलो और दे दो. दूसरा ऑप्शन, वो कह सकता है कि सर 80 किलो आ गया, 80 किलो पैसे दूंगा, 20 किलो पैसे नहीं दूंगा. तीसरा ऑप्शन, वो 80 किलो भी रिजेक्ट कर सकता है कि भैया मुझे पूरा 100 किलो चाहिए था, आप सप्लाई नहीं कर पा रहे हो, पूरा पैसा पूरा सामान वापस. Clear? Before super over, I am just seeing the revision is there. Any revision is there? Yes. So before super over, we will have the short revision of what we have discussed today. First is discharge of contract. Discharge of contract means end of the contractual relationship between the parties. In other words, a contract is said to be discharged when either of party is no more liable to contract. Means both the parties need not to perform end of the need not to perform. They are not liable to perform in the contract. डिस्चार्ज ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का मतलब होता है बच्चों की जो पार्टियां हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में उनकी लायबिलिटी खत्म हो जाए, अब उन्हें परफॉर्म नहीं करना. तो कितनी तरीके से हो सकता है, हाउ मेनी वेज द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विल बी कैन बी डिस्चार्ज. फर्स्ट इज बाय परफॉर्मेंस एक्चुअल एंड टेंडर. वी हैव डिस्कस 37 38. म्यूचुअल कंसेंट, फर्स्ट इज नोवेशन मींस न्यू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. When there is new contract between same parties or different parties, no need to perform the old contract. Rescission means cancellation. Cancellation, it means no part when there by mutual understanding both the parties agree to cancel the contract, then no need to perform in the contract. Alteration, change of some terms. In that case, the parties need not to perform the original terms. They have to be performed according to the updated terms. Remission, discount, waiver, 100% discount. Merger means merge of the inferior right into the superior right. Clear? Impossibility of performance, discharge due to impossibility of performance. First is destruction of subject matter. Main subject matter on which contract is done is destroyed. Death or disablement of the in case of personal service. Contract becomes subsequently illegal. War has been declared after the contract, or non-existence of state of things. By operation of law, that is compulsorily in case of death and personal skills are required. Party become insolvent, then no need to perform and complete the liabilities. Merger we have discussed. Unauthorized terms, alteration in the terms of the written document. Breach of contract, anticipatory means breach before the due date, actual means on the due date. Lapse of time, contract become time bound. Contract which need not to be performed, if the parties mutually agree to substitute the original contract by the new contract, that is novation, resign, rescission, or alteration. If promisee dispense with or remits wholly on part the performance of the promise made to or extend the time for such performance or accept any satisfaction for it. जो सामने वाली पार्टी जिसको हमें परफॉर्मेंस देनी है, या तो वो टाइम दे दे या किसी और तरीके से वो सेटिस्फाई हो जाए, हमें अलाउ कर दे, तो हमें वो परफॉर्म नहीं. If the person at whose option the contract is voidable resigned it, the party who has the right to resign the contract on resigned, the contract need to not to be performed. If promiser want to perform but promisee neglects or refuses to receive his performance, then promiser need not to perform. Or if the contract become illegal after the entering, then contract need not to be performed. So now we come to the super over. Okay. Sir, it is compulsory to memorize all the theory or any important theory. देखिए, please, if you want to clear your exam or gain the knowledge, you have to study full study module. This is the only key to get the success. Okay. So marriage is domestic agreement. I don't think so. Marriage is not a domestic agreement. After marriage, the agreement between husband and wife is domestic nature. If sir, someone is saying sir, the exception to impossibility is not in books, so you can leave it. But I think you should have the idea. Voidable contract, beta, I have already discussed in unit 1. So please. So let's start the super over. A contract containing an undertaking to do an impossible act is void, voidable, valid, illegal. Send all the answers in one shot. Sir, when you say claim damages, is there any written document of agreement to use as evidence? Okay, as per the law, contract may be oral or written, but in the court, there must be an evidence whether the contract, whether contract of oral or written. There should be an evidence in the court. Sir, what is the amendment? Amendment only, I think, in Indian Companies Act and the LLP Act. So teacher will definitely teach you the updated notes. Next point. A holds a house on lease. After that, he buys the house and became the owner. The contract is discharged by recession, merger, waiver, or remission. Recession, beta, I have discussed. It means cancellation. Both the party decide to cancel the contract. Third one, the original contract need not be performed if there is any recession, novation, alteration, all of these. Fourth, a voidable contract becomes void in case of recession, novation, alteration, or merger. Listen. A voidable contract becomes void in case of recession, novation, alteration, or merger. Fifth, change in some of the terms of contract, recession, novation, alteration, or merger. Six, Ram owes Sham 10,000. Sham says that he will accept rupees 8,000 towards final settlement. This is a voidable, valid, illegal, unenforceable contract. Someone is saying, sir, Isha Pandit is saying, sir, the notes that you upload should get down in the notebook. I think, beta, this is on your side. If you want to study, you can also take the printouts, or you can get down in the notebook. So let's start with the answers. First question. A contract containing an undertaking to do impossible act is void. Next. A holds a house on lease. After that, he buys the house and becomes owner. The contract is discharged by merger. Third is the original contract need not be performed if there is all of these. A voidable contract become void in case of recession. Next, change in some terms, alteration. And last is, this is the case of remission, it is valid. So who is the person? ABDACB. Miss Patel Kamlesh Bhai. Congratulations. Rohit Dantalwar. Mr. Himanshu Pathak. Mr. Atharv Barnawal. Mr. Sakaldeep Paswan. Miss Varda Fatima. Okay. So this is the end of Unit 4. In next class, we will discuss Unit 5. So get ready for the test of Unit 4. And hopefully all of you have enjoyed. For such chapter tough tha, but I have given you the revision after the chapter. So this will be, I think that will be helpful for you. But don't forget your study module. You have to go through the whole study module to get the success in your exam. Okay. And once again, congratulations to all of you who are given all the correct answers. Thank you so much. थैंक यू बच्चों, आज के लिए इतना ही. आज क्लास जल्दी खत्म हो रही है, सो एंजॉय द डे. थैंक यू. अमित जी क्लास ऑफ कर दीजिए. अमित जी, कैन यू हेयर मी? अमित जी, आज हमारे टेक्निकल डिपार्टमेंट के लोग कहाँ चले जाते हैं, आप बीच में भी गायब थे. अमित जी, कैन यू हेयर मी? अमित जी, कैन यू हेयर मी? So this is the end of the class. अमित जी, मेरी आवाज आ रही है आपको? क्लास ऑफ कर दीजिए सर, मैं काफी देर से आपको कॉल कर रहा हूँ.